Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Karis Project podcast. Sorry, today we are here discussing some issues that have been going on for some time. We are going to go back and talk about the price of prejudice, because a lot of people's prejudice, regardless of what it is, whether it's your money, the way you look, your skin color, whatever, it doesn't matter. That's all rolled under the same thing. If you're not judging somebody based on their actions and the facts of the matter, then you're demonstrating prejudice. And there's been a lot of that going around. Now, a lot of people try to deny that that actually happens, but it actually does. And we're going to look at some of that and what it actually costs people, because we're going to be going in. I'll be doing some research, and we're going to be going in and doing some dives this week to demonstrate a lot of things are not exactly what it is. And that explains a lot of the nonsensical, insane behavior that we're seeing because of what it's tied to. And I'll say it straight out. Prejudice is unjust. Doesn't matter what it is. If somebody's poor, you sit down and think that they don't deserve justice, or whatever the case may be. Man, they could even be the same color as you, but even from a different part of the country, or even a different country, or whatever. You can use anything that's going to be biased rather than just looking at things objectivity. And that carries a heavy price. People may feel a certain way, but it certainly carries a heavy price. We're going to look at some things here today. In case you have anything you want to say before we get into this. All right. I'm going to go in and I'm going to go back, and we're going to go back and listen to Fauci talk about the gain of function. And then I'm going to just kind of show a little bit about my work. And then we're going to go into what happened when my work was presented to the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, right? And we're going to look at something of what happened when the sexual assault cases were dealt with. So let's go ahead.
What we're talking about now is the gain of function research in studies that increase predominantly the transmissibility, as is the case that I'm going to get into in a moment, as well as pathogenesis and alteration of host range of the virus. There were studies done by two NIAID-funded investigators, Ryan Fouché and Yoshi Kawaoka, in which H5N1, a strain from Indonesia and a strain from Vietnam, were altered in a gain of function, either by direct mutation or by reassortment. And by passage in ferrets, the mammal model for this virus, for humans, there was an increase in fact, a development of aerosol transmissibility in a mammal, which this particular virus did not have.
So gain of function, aerosol transmission, 2012, 13 years ago, right? We know that EcoHealth came to DARPA to ask for grants to spread vaccines through spike proteins in aerosols in caves, the FUSE project, right? So you're looking at this aerosol transmission. This was the reason for the moratorium on the gain of function research, because aerosols is how they transmit biological weapons, gain of function pathogens, and it's gotten well more developed since then. That was 13 years ago, but they got transmission of diseases. And they were going to go in and transmit vaccines to bats in caves using aerosols. So that should give you some thought about what these people can do, and which is why it is a huge problem, and engineering controls are a big deal. And just so people can have an idea, I'm going to make sure that people are well aware of what it is of my book, where this whole thing started. And I'll just put that up there. That's COVID-19 and negligent engineering practices. Will this kill people? It's a collection of studies in HVAC infection controls relating to COVID-19. And this was done during the course of my degree. at the Bachelor of Technology, majoring in Engineering and Applied Sciences at Memorial University, and it was done under the guidance of professional engineers with PhDs. They know what they're doing. I know what I'm doing. I mean, had a mechanical engineering technologist diploma before I did my bachelor degree in engineering technology. So, I mean, at the end of the day, this is what it is. But you get a lot of people who think that they know better than me and that they know better than the professional engineers at the PhDs that were guiding me during doing this work that was turned over to law enforcement. So let's look at some of the things that the law enforcement did when they got this information, because I brought this out straight out in 2020, and they were talking, they did a lot of shade. So let's look at this. Where are we? Right here. Just sure that's the right one. Oh, yeah, there it is. All right. So we are looking at here. This is the, let me get that up here so I can control the wheel. So we've got the occurrence reports here. We'll start up here. So the court they called, they couldn't do anything. Then there's another report. They keep talking about me and what can be done. Another information file. They talk about this. They don't do anything. Then this is when I got arrested at the border, and they tried to say that I resisted arrest and all this other stuff, but nobody wanted to deal with anything. They said I was threatening the court when I said that they would get into problems and that the law enforcement, that I would call them if they didn't go and do their job and they were committing crimes, but they called the police on me. And every time I did something, they did this. They said, with that information that I sent out, that I did during my degree, it's always written as letter writers, talkers, nonsensical. So they're saying that book that was published that I did during the course of my degree was nonsense. And this is what they consistently did. Fraud. When I showed the fraudulent papers, they were like, oh, well, that's not fraud. There's no crime here. Even though my ex-wife was signing in my place and all of this fraudulent activity took place to take the house that I was in and so forth. And they keep saying all of this stuff. And you see it here again and again and again and again and again. And then they said I was crazy. And again. And again. And again. A lot of these things I'm filmed and I'm talking to people. And this is the one where there's a sexual assault that was reported. And because I helped somebody, they punished them and just, again, tried to put it down like I was the primary complainant. And they have a bunch of this redacted. And this is nonsense. This is them letting people who have raped people go free. Again, the same engineering report. Letter writers, talkers, nonsensical. So everybody can hear that and understand that I'm speaking, and they've heard me explain this stuff over and over again. So why is it every time I go and talk to the police, it somehow becomes that way? Right? Again, they let the fraud of my house go because they had the evidence of the fraud, and you're just watching this cover up. Harassment doesn't apply to me because not a big deal. But when it comes down, they're saying that I was planning to take my daughter, kidnap her. Somebody called and tried to say I was going to kidnap Karis and run to the States with her. I have no idea where Karis is, right? No idea. I couldn't tell you where she was. But I was going to have a plot to go ahead and do that. But people can call and make up nonsense, and they take them seriously. But for me, I present the evidence of the HVAC infection controls that is engineering, and it becomes letter writers nonsensical, right? Again, the same type of thing. They send wellness checks whenever I try to go and do something, right? Again, letter writers nonsensical. They keep doing this over and over and over again. Over and over again. Over and over again. Again, And then they're saying, people try to say because they did nonsense and I cut them off, they said I didn't give them their documents, court documents or papers, tried to call it in for theft. You have your print out your own stuff. It's not my problem, right? You want to run around and say all this kind of stuff and go after with these people that are chasing my daughter down and cover up their rape, and you expect me to give you something? You're crazy, right? There you go again. And 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 again. But then they, whoa, look at that. But, and then they have, oh, look, the escaped viruses. That's nonsensical. Oh, there's the paper that talks about the SARS outbreak and that they knew that the lockdowns and all these things were going to be detrimental in 2000. This was done in 2014, but that's nonsensical. Oh, there's the hierarchy of controls that shows engineering before administrative and PPE, but clearly that's nonsensical. Talked about Dr. John Conley and him being a part of the WHO and all of that stuff right from his own documents, but that's nonsensical. This is Dr. John Conley that was on the Scientific Advisory Group for Alberta Health Service, and he's working with the WHO. And he was also doing with the surveillance tracking for the Canadian Health Services. And so this guy is a criminal, right? And he was writing papers about aerosol and engineering controls when he's a medical doctor, right? But he's perfectly fine to do that. But when I say, oh, wait a second, that's out of your wheelhouse, letter writers, nonsensical talking, right? And here's the ASHRAE textbook that discusses bioaerosols. And lo and behold, what did they say? The same thing that I said about the UV and using proper engineering controls to deal with aerosolized pathogens. But for me, it's letter writers, nonsensical talking, right? And the WHO documents that talk about what they're doing, that's nonsensical, right? Here's the RNA technology for the they were using for the lipid nanoparticles. They were using us also with the COVID viruses. But that paper, which is published and so forth, that's nonsensical, right? See the same thing happening over and over and over again, right? And then they said I had an Alberta driver's license, which is nonsense. Then this is a guy that I went to go in and help, Michelle Davidson, who was grabbed in and thrown in the mental ward because she didn't want them to drug her son. And then the social worker came in and drugged her son, and I helped her, and they had a big problem about that. But then I had this stuff there, and they just all disregarded it, right? This is Sig Valtson that says that he had to close the sexual assault case for Kaysha because they didn't get the information. This is the stuff. This is they put the faxes, but they never put the engineering report, sent it back to me, right? Because they want to say, oh, well, he's crazy. But that was the same engineering report that I was doing during school. This is the nonsense that is taking place. Oh, and here's the sexual assault one for Kaysha, right? And then they make these notes about me, and then they say that they couldn't get anything done. When they were trying to tell me to go and talk to Volusia County, and I told them that yes, that Kaysha had a witness with them. They said they had the body cam footage and everything else like that, and they didn't even bother notarizing the document so they couldn't use it. You're seeing this happening over and over again, right? And then he noted that I did say that I was witness the confession of Robert Cannon, but that was disregarded, right? And then they made a note that I talked about bioterrorism, which Pierre Poilievre talked about and everybody else talked about it. But when it comes from the black man, it's nonsensical, right? Just like Trudeau, trust the science except when it comes from the black man, right? Because I tell you right now, if I was a white man, they couldn't do this nonsense. With this kind, with the degree and the standing that I had, they would never do this to a white man. Come and gaslight him to his face continually And then if his daughter was getting raped by black people or non-white people, all these racists would be going crazy and throwing it in the face. But because it's my daughter and she's part Native and she's part black, it becomes a big issue, right? And then, oh, there we go. Nonsensical talking for that engineering report that I did during the course of my degree. Oh, again, look at that. Again, they talked about this, and when I articulated the people that were there, they redacted a lot of the stuff and sent it to me. Not like I have the record of this. It's like, why are you redacting it when you're sending back to me? I know everything is there, but this is the nonsense that they keep doing. Oh, and again, like everybody sits down and acts like they can understand what I'm doing. People saying, "Oh, I'm running around and I'm this con man," and I can speak perfectly fine if I'm conning people. But the moment I go into the police to report a crime, it utterly becomes gibberish. The moment I walk in or pick up the phone to talk to a police officer, I suddenly can't speak and I can't make sense. That really makes sense. Like the lies that people believe are absolutely absurd. And then Buckingham actually talks about it. And then he mentions the engineering report, but he botches the name. These guys do this all the time. Right? And they just throwing this in my face. Talking about conspiracy. Oh, well, look at that. There's the Saskatchewan law enforcement package that had all the engineering stuff in and stuff from other people who were having issues, not only just with my case in the courts, but other people's cases in the family courts. You know, we looked at the last one that we had, and they were trafficking the natives through the courts, and the government was involved with the 60 scoop, and they did the same thing in the States at the same time. Look again, 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 and again, and again, and again. So this is what happened consistently. And they did this with Kaysha's case as well. When she went to go in and send in her statement over to the police, they disregarded it so that they didn't have to deal with the rape. Oh, I wasn't even on the screen. Wow, I'm an idiot.
I thought I saw it.
Yeah, it was on the wrong screen. So I'm going to have to go back through that again. And so people can see. That's just, yeah, I did too. Everybody's like, oh, what's he talking about? So let me pull it back up here again. Whoops. So we can go back there. You can sit down and see it. You can sit down and see it again, 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 again. There he's talking about it so that you can see it, that Buckingham talked about all this stuff. There you go. There you go. There you go. There you go. Talking about that. Everybody can go back and just look at that. And they noted that I was there when I said that Robert confessed and Kaysha was there. And they did all of this stuff. And there's the stuff with the sexual assault, right? And then there's the facts that I sent over there. But everybody wants to act like I can't speak. And the only reason why he was able to send this letter was because Volusia County didn't do what they did. And then he tried to tell me that I should be the one to go back and talk to them. And these are a list of a lot of these file numbers and all of these things, right? And then they're saying that I have an Alberta driver's license. No. And then they, again, there you go. There's the armored RNA. This is the WHO documents, the UV for the HVAC, the ASHRAE textbook about Dr. John Conley, the hierarchy of controls, Dr. John Conley. He talks about him being associated with the WHO here in this list, right? And this is the paperwork talking about the SARS outbreak so that people can see and understand this, that this was handed over to the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. This is talking about what they knew in 2014 about the lockdowns and all of these things, that they didn't work, and that there was lab leaks like crazy that they knew about, and there was already problematic. And this is what they talked about at the COVID select hearings and so forth. Anybody can go and see that. And they knew that there was an Alberta law enforcement package. Oh, he's talking nonsense. Oh, he's talking nonsense when he was doing the stuff with his degree and all of this stuff. Again, 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 again. And they said there were 67 complaints at the time of this. But when somebody made a complaint against me, they're like, we can't do anything, but we encourage people to keep coming forward. But they called me a conspiracy theorist and all of these things. And they're like, oh, do we have to keep doing this? And when I come in and bring the stuff in the harassment, and they're like, oh, he's talking nonsense. He's talking that engineering stuff. Oh, the sexual assault, that didn't happen because he's the one making complaints. Oh, he's talking the engineering stuff. Nonsense. Oh, there it is again. Nonsense. Oh, he must be crazy. So let's go get a mental health evaluation. Oh, he's talking nonsense again. We know better than the black man who does the engineering. This is what it is. Everybody knows better than the damn nigger who does the engineering. That is absolutely racist as hell. Never do this to a white man. Not in this country. Not to this level. I grew up around all white people. I grew up in Canada. I married a white woman. Dated a lot of white women. A lot of you guys are just fuming over that, but that's just life, right? So I've been around a lot of white people. I know when white people are racist and when they're not. A lot of my good boys, they're white, right? So don't try to pull that nonsense. I watch the difference, the way that you treat people treat us when they're racist. Not everybody's that way, but there's a lot of people that are. You can't deny it because at the end of the day, this is so absolutely disgusting. These guys are being known to be trafficking natives, Métis, Inuit, all of them. Talk to anybody, the Highway of Tears in Canada. Natives make up 50% of the trafficking of the adults, and they make up 5% of the population. Nobody wants to talk about them per capita stats. Why? Who's buying them? Sure.
Yeah.
Are some natives involved in trafficking their own people? Absolutely. But who's got the money to buy them?
Exactly.
Right?
White people.
Because if there was no market, they wouldn't be taking them like that. There's no money in it. Right? 51% of the children being trafficked are natives. 5% of the population. Right? And the police are heavily involved. The government in Canada has been trafficking them for years, and they traffic other people too. But people don't want to believe it. Right? When I brought this out with the engineering controls, that was a giveaway telltale sign that they were preparing to put out a biological weapon, because you don't do this. You prepare for things like this. They have a bunch of people that they pay to do risk assessment. You're going to tell me that every pandemic response that dealt with aerosolized pathogens that were spread and defended through HVAC infection controls, that they just magically, I don't know what's going on, right? I can't read this stuff. It just went out of mind everywhere. No, that's called conspiracy. You can't tell me that's incompetence in a systematic manner, that it allows for the spread of biological weapons. That's not the way that works. This is 100% deliberate. Engineering controls is a lot of brain power, a lot of smart guys doing a lot of smart stuff. And you go and eliminate all of them for the mitigation for a pandemic response. But they know full well that they need those engineering controls so that when they're in those biolabs, that they don't die. It's kind of funny how that works, right? Kind of funny how that works. Anyway, we're going to take a short commercial break and we're going to come back on the other side and continue to go on with this. This is absolutely disgusting and mad. A lot of people are dead because of this. A lot of people would rather let their own people die than to take help or advice from a black man. And they would rather do that, to believe that, and because they have black fatigue and they want to treat everybody the same, the one that came to come and save people's lives, they just want to shut him up and treat him like he's a porch monkey or some kind of something, like one of them ghetto black people that you see running over all over the street. And then what ends up happening? Their own people die. And some of the people, they were engineers and they knew better, like Elijah. Anyway.
Schaefer, yeah.
Yes. Let's take a short commercial break.
Hello, everyone. I'm excited to announce the next generation of energy drinks, Rev 7. It has no sugar and no caffeine. Instead, Rev 7 uses Go BHB. Go BHB is one of the body's primary ketones, and it provides the most efficient and clean fuel that your body needs. It also helps you stay energized all day with no crashes. Not only that, it produces 3 times more brain energy than sugar, which helps boost your memory, focus, and mental sharpness. It also helps reduce stress and helps balance your mood. Rev 7 does all that while being the best tasting energy drink ever. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 20% today. I'm so sure you're going to love Rev 7. For a limited time, you get our introductory 3-pack absolutely free. I drink Rev 7 every day and I absolutely love it, and so will you.
I'm talking myself.
That's what sucks about being right beside you, because I'm hearing everything. I'm hearing everything, and I'm just sitting here like, okay, true.
No, okay. So,
and then you're like, oh, it's not on. I'm like,
yeah,
I can hear you.
there's the Karis Project, support a good cause. Go to mypillow.com/the Karis Project. Call 800-845-2942. Like, support the donor box, the give, send, go, and so forth. But when I look at this, and I look at these people that are always going out and calling out the Jews and all that kind of stuff, this also makes me sick. Because at the end of the day, I understand what racism is like and discrimination, because you don't do this to someone. You can't get away with doing this to certain kinds of people. And I'm going to tell you right now, if a white man had my credentials and his daughter was getting raped, this would not happen, especially not with the social media. When I hear the way that these guys, they go out and they fund this girl hundreds of thousands of dollars for saying the N-word.
Yo, that's crazy.
But the black man that is coming to save your white children, your white families, and everybody else, screw the nigger.
Yeah.
We're going to kill our own people because we hate them that much.
F you niggers.
That's why your children are going to hate you. Because they're like, you would rather step on the black man's head and put our lives at risk? You don't love your own kind. All you racist people, you guys serve the devil. You are showing that ideology of Albert Pike that says the white race alone is the only race that is fit to rule and the only one that shall. And he's a 33-degree Freemason who did morals and dogma. And we're going to be talking about him and a lot of these other occultists that are weaving their philosophy into all areas of our society, and people are drinking and imbibing it in, because this is like worse than the crab in the bucket mentality, right? Like, I listen to people talk about trafficking and all of these people. Traffickers don't care what race they are. They'll take any human being. If you dehumanize that person so much, you don't even care about your own race. You don't, because the moment that somebody does something you don't like, you automatically associate them like with those other people. And any person that was white that I helped, they treated them like they were black. Right?
Yeah,
and
they
they
were
would rather
honorary
let white
niggers after
women
that.
with white children who get their children raped than allow them to have the help of a black man. Because no, white women that had white kids, and they were just like, no. And the woman's like, no one else is helping me. Oh, no, just leave them alone. So I should sit there and get raped. And my kids get sexually molested. They don't care. This is the mindset. And
Yeah.
I watch black people doing this too. This is why I don't like racists, because racists let pedophiles get away. And as far as I'm concerned, when you're that racist and that blind, you're effectively a pedophile, because you're aiding pedophilia like mad. Because when it comes to a different race, it don't matter. But that pedophile is going to rape white kids, black kids, green kids. You don't care as long as it's a kid.
Even my foster care, like CPS, when I was a kid, when I was permanent ward of the Crown, they documented that someone was raping me and that I was being beaten and abused. But because they couldn't blame it on my father, they just let it go. My dad was like, okay, yeah, let's go take polygraph and everything. And they're like, oh, just kidding. So it's like they knew in the foster care. By the way, my dad had supervised visits. Like, bro, yeah. So they knew that I was being abused. They knew who was doing it. But because they couldn't displace it on a black man, they were like, let's just continue to let this little girl get raped and beaten in foster care. like, like the system, like people act like it's one thing and another and don't want to see things for what it is. And that's crazy to me. And when you grow up in a situation where you're constantly experiencing certain things that white people don't have to experience, and then white people are going around complaining about hurt feelings because someone is saying words, that's crazy to me, man. That's so crazy, because the things that I experienced growing up, I never seen white people have to deal with that from uh governments or different agencies. Like, before you even know yourself, the government doing that to a kid is crazy. And the people are going around complaining, oh, they said this word that hurts my feelings. They're so racist. They're trying to like do a genocide because they said a word that hurts my feelings. Meanwhile, they're literally raping and killing and beating children and prostituting and pimping them out. Bro.
And don't get
so
me
rude.
wrong. I have nothing against white people at all.
No, me neither.
What
my
I don't
mom
like
is white passing.
I don't like racists. I don't like
She has
racism.
blue eyes
I don't
and blonde
like
hair.
prejudice, and I don't care who it's from, because I don't like black people who do this either. I don't like anybody who does this, because when you do this, you let criminals go free, and you are destroying your own selves because of the stupidity. Like, utter stupidity. Letting genocide go by so that you can just feel good because you're hurt? You're not a man. You're a cuck. Straight out. I have no respect for any man that does that. Because if you can't put aside your feelings and your disgust or disdain for someone else to protect your own children and the children in community, you're a devil as far as I'm concerned. You're a pedophile. And men and women are not the same. I don't like when women do this, but men, you're the protectors. And if you can't swallow your pride to protect your kids, you're a pedophile. There's all there is to it. Because you let rapists and pedophiles walk, and you let genocidal maniacs continue because you don't like a certain person and you want to talk about per capita, you're an idiot.
But what's crazy is like people will act like, oh, she's going around doing this or whatever, or accusing me of this or that. But people have tried to grab me in person. People have tried to kill me. People have attacked me in person because of things that people say online, or the people that they're getting to come together or whatever to do whatever. I've been threatened by like judges and other stuff if I didn't do certain things. And it's like, you're what the people will believe what the white people are saying. It's like, oh, she's a grifter or this or whatever. But then they'll work with pedophiles, convicted pedophiles, to come after me for being a quote unquote grifter, and then also send people to do physical harm to me. People who actually have pulled guns on me, beat the hell out of me, like sexually assaulted me, put dogs on me, like pit bulls, had to go hospital. Like the things that they done in comparison, even if I was what they're claiming what I am, these people are monsters.
But
and I'm not. And I'm obviously not, but you know.
But they actively they trust the drug addicts that are in active addiction. They trust the pedophiles. They say that they don't like Freemasons and so forth, but they will trust the Freemason when it comes down to doing this. Even the black Freemason they'll trust over it's just the mental gymnastics that I see here, and they're willing to kill people to do this. How many people have died? If this had come out, a lot of people would be alive. They didn't have to do this because the even the law, when I looked up talking about conspiracy and certain things, they said if the conspiracy is caught early enough, you don't need violence. And there was enough conspiracy laid out in this. But they didn't want to believe it. They didn't want to take that help. And they would rather let other people die. And then they want to sit down and say, I love my white people, but you let a sure hell of a lot of them die. Right? And they would hunt people down, force them, and pressure them and bring all this stuff. Oh, he's doing this, and this. Nobody can sit down and say, nobody wants to sit down and talk about the engineering controls. Nobody. Everybody's like, I didn't read it. Well, that sucks to be you. The police certainly, it's nonsense. And then ones that do read it kind of act like they know better than the engineer or the engineering technology who actually did the documents. I didn't know that police were qualified to do that. But then
when you're a nigger, they are.
Yes. Or some white, blonde-haired, blue-eyed woman who is dumber than a bag of hammers that comes in and knows better than me. And then some faceless dude, anon account, that's out of Vancouver, he seems to know better than me. Everybody who hasn't done this, and all these influencers or talking heads, they know better than me. And everybody takes their word like it's golden. And then they use the character assassination because they can't assassinate the engineering work, and they just all avoid it like the plague. Every single one of them. Everybody's like, oh, the documents, I didn't read them. Oh, they don't matter. Really? Really? So you really know about this. You know what the hell you're talking about. Because it makes you feel good, you kill people. This is why they send a bunch of women. Because men don't come in my face and say that kind of nonsense. It's the women. This is, people have no idea. And at the point in time, like, people want to just go ahead and see me dead. It doesn't even matter. The fact of the matter is you can't change this. People already know. They gave some kid $14 million for a grant for engineering control, saying, oh, this is for infection control, something they already knew. I showed you in the textbook, the ASHRAE textbook, in this documentation that tells you the same thing that I was saying. That just goes to show. That goes to show. Right? Because anybody else said it. I mean, there was guys that weren't even actually an industrial hygienist. Yes, he's an engineer. He's not an HVAC guy. He was saying some of the same things. Stephen Petty. Nobody treated him that way. Right? So how is it that they treat me this way? Right? What's the difference?
Being a cotton picker.
Right? Because, I mean, I'm actually the one who's trained in, and actually in my specialty in my degree was researching and implementing technology. So if you wanted something to work the way that it was intended, you come to somebody like me. But I don't know what I'm doing. Right? This is the ridiculous nature of the whole thing. right? And everyone tells me, oh, does other people say about, who gives a damn? What is the thermodynamics, the fluid mechanics, and all the other science say that isn't dependent on opinion? Just because the engineering is filled with a bunch of cocks, it's not my problem.
Literally.
Right? The ones that knew, and some of the other guys that couldn't speak on it, they couldn't speak on it.
And you know what? If I went out and smoked crack or a cigarette tomorrow because of all the stress of everything that we're going through, they'd be like, you see, she's just like the other niggers. I told you. Look at that. Discredit them. If I get caught doing anything, I'm finished. I am forced to be strong. I don't have the opportunity to make mistakes like these people. Most of these people do drugs, whether psychedelics or weed. They smoke, they drink profusely, they do all sorts of crap. They sleep around, they have orgies, they're freaking polyamorous, like they have those freaking groups. Lisa said she had friends with a bunch of like polyamorous people and they're freaking old. But me.
I did drugs.
I'm talking about active.
I know, but I'm saying when I did drugs, nobody ever accused me of being crazy. Ever.
Yeah.
Never. When I was like living like an idiot, nobody ever once accused me of being crazy. But I don't want people to die and somehow become crazy. I don't want women to get raped and somehow become crazy. I go to help people who are in bad situations, somehow I become crazy. Right?
I feel like we just can't care anymore what people just say. Just say like F you and do whatever I want.
I don't care what people say, but I'm just like, the resistance that I get to go and do what is right is insane. Nobody gave me resistance. People would just love to say, oh, he's just another one of them N-bombs and he's doing that stuff. But if I want to go out and help people because I believe what God says, somehow I'm crazy. Well, let's go back and listen to what the Canadians said about the pathogens.
It's suspicious. It's alarming, it's frightening, it's perhaps life-threatening.
As an epidemiologist and law professor, Amir Adaran says new details obtained by CBC News about extremely dangerous viruses sent to China are a matter of grave concern.
There's nothing I can say concretely about it. There's plenty the federal government can say, and they need to.
It's been nearly 1 year since a federal scientist and her research team was evicted from Canada's only Level 4 lab in Winnipeg. We now know that happened 4 months after Jianguo Chu sent a shipment of Ebola and Nipah viruses to the virology lab in Wuhan, China. Documents obtained through access to information tell us exactly what was sent. 30 vials of 15 different strains of Ebola and Nipah, some of the deadliest viruses in the world. The documents show there were concerns for months about where the viruses were going, from the head of the lab in Winnipeg to his bosses in Ottawa. The Public Health Agency of Canada says this shipment is not connected to the eviction 4 months later of Chu and her team. But it won't say what is at the root of that ongoing RCMP and internal investigation.
One of the leading reasons that China might want to have a large catalog of Ebola genetic material is because they're doing what's called gain-of-function experiments. And what that means are experiments that make the virus more dangerous or more deadly. The Wuhan lab does quite a lot of those experiments on different viruses. It's a sort of research that we don't do in Canada, that is frowned upon in most parts of the world, and the Chinese do quite a lot of it, and I'm afraid we may just have helped them.
Question.
And this was in 2020. Like, they just straight up said they're doing gain of function, right?
Yeah.
And this is the whole point. Like, again, like, I didn't want to say, and when he's, actually, let's bring it up here. The Bangladesh strain, because I gave this to them, and this showed that there was, spike proteins that were contaminated with the Bangladesh strain of the Nipah virus, which was sent from Winnipeg, and it was sequenced at Wuhan, and it was found in patients. But no, that's not a big deal, right? And this is exactly what they were saying, and they didn't want to deal with it. And one of the reasons why those terrorists came on Canada, they talked about the corruption in the RCMP. They just had a bust, and they cut out the DEA. And the DEA was one that fed them the information. The RCMP just shut them out because there's a lot of corruption in there, right? And this again, it's like how many people have to lose their lives because of people's stupidity? Like this is what pisses me off. Like if I was doing something wrong, sucks to suck. I shouldn't have did it. But I'm trying to help people not die. What kind of disgusting, satanic person is going to sit down and would rather let people die to satisfy their feelings? Like, this is what it's come down. You destroy people's lives to satisfy your feelings and murder people and let people get raped. Children get raped. And you want to settle yourself, oh, he's a grifter. Oh, he did this, he did that. There's so many lies and holes in that story. And trust.
If we were a grifter, we would be paid top dollar. We would be at all the speaking events. We'd be fully booked for the rest of the year. We'd have loads and loads of money if we were grifters. Because all the people who are the top influencers talk the biggest shit. They make the most money because they bend over and just let people violate them dry. Like, that's just what it is. They just do whatever they want for money.
Yes. And this is just...
That's what all the people hunting us down are doing, too.
Yeah. And, everybody has something to say, but nobody reads these documents. Nobody reads them. But everybody wants to have something to say about them, but nobody wants to read them. Right? Everybody's like, well, did you read the No, I didn't read it. Well, for what? Well, so how do you know I'm talking nonsense if you're not reading them? Well, just all of these people are saying, oh, well, everybody
That's why.
Well, a lot of people said a lot of things during World War II, and a lot of people ended up getting killed because they listened. Yeah. And look, again, talking about the bioterrorism in that report, right? Like, and all of this stuff, and they want to just pick and choose what they see and then tell everybody, oh, it's just nonsense. You don't need to read it. I trust me, I went through it. Everyone wants to say the government's corrupt except when it comes to me. Right? And that, oh, I was just this and that, and I'm going to do this and that, and I'm trying to steal my kid and become an American citizen. Not once have I ever uttered out of my mouth that I wanted to become an American citizen. Never.
And I've never in my life.
Never. Anybody who looked at my social media would know that I had no ever intentions of becoming an American citizen. Anybody who saw my Facebook or any of that stuff would never say that.
Yeah. Same.
No one would sit down and say that. First of all, I was never even a conservative.
Me neither.
And
Me neither.
While I never hated Trump, I did laugh a lot about some of the things he said because he does stick his foot in his mouth from time to time, and it's funny. But he speaks his mind. I respect that. Doesn't mean I can't laugh about it. But at the end of the day, I was never... Everybody who says that, like I said, if my daughter, if I wanted her to be born in the States, she would have been born in the States because I was in the States and her mother was pregnant. I left so I could come back to Canada. Right? This is just really where it is. And at the end of the day, people have to start making choices. We're going to come back on the other side. We're going to go a little bit more in depth and stuff on what's going on. But go ahead, Kaysha.
Even aside from the fact that I could have been born in the US and my dad came back early so that I would be born in Canada from school, all the people, like I always say, all the Americans that have asked to marry me, constantly ask to be with me, constantly reach out to my dad. Oh, Dale, let me court your daughter. Kaysha, please let me court you. I've not gone with a single one of them. I've rejected every single one. My father has rejected every single one. I will never marry an American. I do not want to be an American. I've never wanted to be an American. I'm a Native American, American Indian under the Jay Treaty, which makes me more American than most Americans. But I don't need to be American, and I will never, ever be American.
Yeah, I'm going to be doing a breakdown on the treaties and what happened with the Indians. And you guys are going to realize why that neglect, and all you people that sit down and say, oh, they were conquered, don't know your damn constitution, and you're just justifying being bent over and having your rights taken away. People really need to do reading for themselves, and they need to understand things for themselves. And if you don't, you should need to shut your mouth and let the people who know talk. Because a lot of people say things out of feeling without doing their homework. And yeah, there's times where people are wrong. I'm not going to sit down and say anybody's perfect, but you want to make sure that you start thinking about what you're doing more than not. Anyway.
And people that go around like, oh, she was trying to seduce this guy, that guy. I've never dealt with white people, really. The only white people I ever dealt with were from Eastern Europe directly.
We're running,
never American, never Canadian.
We're running up on time here, so we're going to close here with a prayer, and then we'll talk about this on the other side. Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you for this day. We thank you for your love, grace, and mercy. We thank you for the hope that you have given us this day. Open our hearts and minds to your will, and help us that we would come together, Lord, that we would come together to rebuild our families, our churches, our community, our nation. We can protect the children from this wickedness is my prayer. In Jesus' name, amen.
Yeah, guys. Catch us on the other side.
everybody, and welcome back to the Karis Project podcast. We're back here for the second part to continue to talk about some of the things that were going on. I just wanted to get through a couple of more things before we get into the rest of this stuff. Anything you want to say before we get into it?
Hey y'all, what's been the proverbial hood? If anyone ever calls you like a grifter or a trafficker, just say yeah. How do you make money? Human trafficking. Oh well, no, seriously, what do you do? Well, I'm a grifter. How I make money. I'm gonna start saying that to people when they ask me like what I do. Oh, I'm a grifter and a human trafficker by trade, and I make loads of money. I'm actually very wealthy. Yeah. Just a side note. Whatever you hear, believe it. Just don't ask me. Just believe it. It's true. Proceed.
Yeah. Just so people can remember, when I went to go into court against the RCMP and other people for the COVID stuff on July 23rd of 2020, and I had a family matter the same day, same judge on both sides, this happened when I was trying to go into court.
For what? This is an illegal warrant.
Oh, sorry.
No, it is not.
This is a lie.
This is a lie.
Sidewalk?
This is a lie. You are stopping me from doing
I was
the
back up here.
What is the reason for the arrest? What is the reason for the arrest?
No, you will not. Do not.
What is the
This is not a
reason?
lawful arrest.
What is the
This
reason
is not
for
a
the
lawful
arrest?
arrest. Do not.
What is the reason for the arrest?
This is an
What
unlawful
is the
arrest.
reason for the
Pursuant to
arrest?
269.1.
What is the reason for the
I've
What is the
I've
reason?
already applied to
What
your
is the reason? What is the reason?
Do not touch it.
What is
Do
the
not
reason
touch
for
it.
the arrest?
You see this wickedness?
What is the reason?
God
What
is
is
going
the
to judge you
reason for
today.
the arrest?
You will not live. Father in heaven, I ask of you this day to pour out your
What
spirit
is
upon
the
your
reason?
children.
You-
Tonight
what is
I
the
ask of you this day
What is
to
the reason?
slay the servants of Baal.
What
Do
is
not
the
allow
reason?
them to touch her.
What is
No.
the reason?
In the name
What
of
is the
Jesus,
reason?
I ask of you this day.
What is the reason? You did not state the reason for the arrest.
Tell me the law. Tell me the
Whoa.
law. Tell me the law.
What is the reason?
Give me your arm. Give me your arm now. Give me your arm. You will not.
What is the reason? Stop!
We'll explain to
Stop!
You're resisting arrest and detention.
No, what is the reason for the arrest?
The public health order.
No, it's not. That's not what it says. That's not what it says. That is not what the public. That is not what the public order says. I'm not required to go with you.
Sit down.
I'm not required to go with you.
Get in the vehicle.
You have my backpack on. How am I supposed to sit
Lift
down?
your feet up. Lift your feet up.
What about the court hearing?
You guys are not supposed to be here for the court hearing. It's a telephone hearing.
No, it's
No,
not.
it isn't.
Yes, it is.
That's not what's listed.
It's not.
That's not what's listed.
It's not a telephone hearing, sir.
Lift your feet up. She's not supposed to be in public.
It's
That's not
notarized.
what it says. It
says-
says that I can wear a mask.
It says that you can wear a mask.
Pulling me.
Yes, because you're arrested.
It says that you can go to things that are necessary. Isn't court necessary, though?
the paint fluid. Those are my glasses.
You need to back up.
Oh,
or
sorry.
You're gonna get arrested.
You can videotape it. Just stay in the state.
What about the court hearing?
My agent can take my.
You get the point.
That's funny. Some people seen that, like some parents, like white people even, and they started crying. That happened to me, and I was just like, okay, well, just another Tuesday in Canada as a nigger.
Anybody who has children understands. And if you're a man and you watch people just manhandling your daughter, and then that dirty, filthy dog, Robert, while I'm strapped to a bed, takes my daughter out to Black Diamond, Alberta, and rapes her. All you guys are sick dogs.
What's also funny about that is that they're trying to convince people that after my provincial prison that I worked at, maximum security prison and hospital for the criminally and mentally insane, took me to the prison for 8 days, abused the hell out of me. They had 7 male officers rotating in and out, interrogating me. They searched me under my clothes in front of the male officers. They held me in a small room for 24 hours a day, locked down. I could only leave for like 30 minutes to shower and other stuff. They didn't feed me properly. I was dehydrated. I wasn't given enough water. I was barely able to sleep because they were in and out. The men were in and out of my room throughout the night, and they only had men doing most of the shifts. They are trying to convince people that after that entire experience, the police, the way they brutalized me was so bad, I lost feeling in my wrist and whole lower forearm for over a year. It was limp and I could barely use it properly. They're trying to convince people that after that, when I left, I had no place to go because my home was obviously taken, my car was stolen, and everything else. Bank accounts were shut down. They're trying to convince people that after that, I went to this dude in the middle of nowhere and I seduced him. And somehow I overpowered this guy and seduced him and forced him into doing something with me. Like, the dude looks inbred for one, and two, I was extremely weak. I was starved, dehydrated. My body was literally limp, but I'm the one. Because that's just black people. We have voodoo. We just overpower anything. We're just so evil and so powerful, but so weak and stupid at the same time. Isn't that so crazy? It's so amazing, the powers that niggers have.
And at the end of the day, it's just, people have to start thinking for themselves. At the end of the day, that's really it. And I know there's a lot of people that don't buy this, right?
People with common sense.
Yes. And that's, there's a lot of people that have common sense, but there's a lot of people on social media that don't. And a lot of people that go ahead and stand by and allow these things to happen for God knows what reason. I can't even say. And it's no good reason at all. So at the end of the day, the people that are destroying other people for their own reasons, don't do it. Because there's a lot of people that they want help and they'll take it from wherever it comes from. Just let them alone. Because if you're doing this, like, if you're doing it unintentionally, well, you need to wake up and stop. But I know there's a lot of people that know exactly what they're doing. And they're doing it anyway. And I'm sorry, there's no mercy for you. And when people find out, they're going to rip you to shreds, right? Not me you got to worry about. I'm a person that I'll be patient and let things play out and let things happen. And then you'll get your consequences. But there are people that will be a lot less rational than me. Because what they've done to me in all of these things, this is how they get people to commit suicide.
Yeah, that's why I said, like, the fact
67 complaints, and some of them were rape complaints, torture. And that was at that time. There's more. Child abduction is one of them. But it's okay. Because it's just me. Right? And everybody's got something that I was doing, but nobody was sitting down and saying, well, when I was going out and doing these things, when I sent those kids to camp, some of the people at church, they couldn't stand them. They couldn't stand the natives. And I was so disgusted when I saw that level of racism. That told me all that I needed to know, because those were kids. They were kids who did nothing wrong. And when you have that disdain for kids, like when I see people calling all these young black kids like monkeys and animals and all these things, all I see is traffickers and pedophiles. Because they'll let those kids get raped and they don't care and they won't bat an eye. They won't care. They can't stand them anyway. And their minds will make up all kinds of things to justify these things. And this is where there's a problem. Because they'll let people abuse these people in front of their faces because they cry about whatever. And those people, you're not men. You're beta. You're not even beta. Beta's too good for you. These are the kinds of men, they're Ahabs. And they're being run by Jezebels. And they're the weakest, most wicked, self-serving men I've ever seen in my life. They're not men. You're not. Can't call yourself that. You might have testicles, but that doesn't make you a man.
Yeah.
You don't have the
And
character of it.
these people go around acting like they don't do anything, but the crazy thing is, anything I done in my past, like, I'm more than okay to talk about it because I do things with my chest. I'm not scared to do things with my chest, be it if I slept with someone, if I wanted to do drugs, if I wanted to go out and do crack tomorrow, I would do it and just publicly say, I've decided to do crack. Maybe later I'll buy a pack of cigarettes. I'll let you guys know. But I do things with my chest. I'm not a pussy like most of you. So everyone going around like, oh, she done this, she done that. I promise you, if I'd done it, you'd be the first to know because I'm not afraid of anybody. What are you gonna do if I decide to do something? That's my choice. I do it. I decide.
I said bioterrorism, and they all said I was crazy. But let's listen.
We already knew that Justin Trudeau was not worth the cost, the crime, the corruption, and the cover-up. But now we know that he cannot protect our people or our country. We just received these documents that Trudeau has been covering up for years. Documents related to a massive security breach at the Trudeau government's most sensitive laboratory, where the most dangerous viruses and pathogens are studied and handled. We have learned that the Trudeau government's head of pathogens was collaborating with members of Beijing's People's Liberation Army who are responsible for bioweapons and bioterrorism. We know now that a People's Liberation Army official was able to gain personal access, walk in the door, look at computers, and have access to all of our most important virological secrets. Let me, if you think any of this is hyperbole, read the report yourself. This is from government documents, the Trudeau government's own documents. It says here on page 142, Winnipeg lab scientist Dr. Chu is head of the Special Pathogens Unit, the top person in that job. According to documents on page 242, quote, represents a serious and credible danger to the Government of Canada as a whole, and in particular at facilities considered high security due to the potential for theft of dangerous materials attractive to terrorists and foreign entities that conduct espionage to infiltrate and damage the economic security of Canada, end quote.
So when he says it, everybody can understand it. But when I say it, or when I submit those documents, no one can understand it. It becomes nonsense. You see a problem with this? Right? Everybody keeps saying that, oh, well, this is not, this is this and this is that. But you know what? When you have the method of effectively disseminating those biological weapons, they didn't give a damn because they knew that there was no effective engineering controls and that disease was going to spread. Sure, was it super deadly? No, but it did its job. And they were able to justify going ahead and giving the vaccines and everything else like that, which wiped out a lot of people. If it got stopped before and say, for example, the number of cases were cut in half because they were implementing proper engineering controls, do they even get to go that far to the vaccine? No. No, they don't. No, they had to pad the numbers, and they were still doing a lot of things to pad the numbers. So they would have had to be outright murdering people left and right to pad up enough numbers to justify that, which would have made it very, very obvious that people were getting killed left, right, and center. So, I mean, at the end of the day, it is what it is. I mean, I wish a lot of people didn't have to die for this. Right? When I sit down and I look at a lot of the people that people are coming after, I start having to ask serious questions because I see what happens to me. And I see the people who are going after a lot of other people. And I see what they've done to me and they're going after these other people. I have to sit down and say that those people, I don't believe a word they're saying about anybody because they lie through their teeth. And they do that and they are just going on how they feel and whatever else like that. So unless I see credible evidence coming from people. This is why I don't trust people. I've watched people do things and people get serious injury because somebody wanted to feel good or didn't want to feel bad and so forth. And I've seen people get consequences. And I know the people that have had to deal with consequences in their life, they're very different than the people who don't. A lot of these people running around, they haven't had to have serious consequences for their actions.
Same people who are hunting me down were like repeatedly raped by their fathers growing up. Like had rampant rape from their parents growing up, and worse, quite a few of them Freemasons, like their parents were 33-degree Masons and also raping them. Like they've made public testimony about this and they went through the system as well. So very interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah. Anyway, we're going to pull up a clip here. We're going to shift gears now and kind of go and talk a little bit on the feminist side because...
Well,
what?
Just a side note, by the way, guys, I'm not a drug addict and I don't sleep around. I'm just saying, though, like, I'm the kind of person, whatever I do, I'm going to do whatever I want. But obviously, like, you get what I'm saying. You get what I'm saying. I was using an example just to clear that up because some people are going to be like, oh, okay, sure.
And the level that people sit down and stalk and watch everything that I do and what my daughter does and come in and take pictures and screenshots to show, oh, look at this. Oh, look at this. You're a clown. Like, honestly, get a life.
Why
right?
are you so obsessed with me?
Yeah.
Girl, I want to know.
But these people, they're raging feminists. And we're going to listen to a clip here.
They're mad because they can't get it.
of a woman talking about feminism, which we're going to go into a deep dive because I've been doing some research on this. We'll be talking about this coming up in this next week.
Self-obsession is an act of Satanism. Watch as this young lady breaks down the roots of feminism being satanic.
A lot of the early feminist thinkers view Satan as the liberator of women. Elizabeth Stanton, who is the author of the Woman's Bible, took the Bible, took out all the parts that she thought were not great for women in the Bible and rewrote it entirely herself. Wow. And feminism is directly opposed to the Bible because the villain of the Bible, Satan, they idolize as this great liberator of women. Satanism is worshiping the self. It's very important to understand that the history, the link between Satan worship and worship of the self and rejecting the hierarchy of God and man is the root of modern day feminism.
Interesting how worshiping yourself is an act of Satanism. Now, how could that be true? Because you're worshiping the part that the Lord wants you to die to. Understand that. Different fleshly desires from your carnal heart, it's nothing but your beastly nature. So understand this. If you're worshiping yourself, or if you're absorbed with yourself, a part of you that God wants to die, ultimately you're worshiping the beast. You see that? You understand that 6 is also the number of man, right? If you are self-absorbed or have a self-obsession with yourself, you're worshiping the beast. The beast that's meant to be brought to the altar to be sacrificed from within you. That's why you're meant to die to yourself. That's why you're meant to present yourself as a living sacrifice at the altar. And you're the temple, so the altar is within you. So it's all done within you spiritually. So if you are obsessed with yourself, you're obsessed with the beast.
Wait a second. Aside from everything they just said, was that Moonlight's Not in the Back, Beethoven? I was just playing that today. It's a dope. I'm sorry. It's a really beautiful. I was just like this one. Anyways.
No worries. But at the end of the day, what he's saying is true. And I was reading that the women's Bible that she had there, and she quotes Helena Blavatsky. One thing that people don't understand when it comes to worship isn't just bowing down or singing to Jesus or going to church. Worship is who you pattern your life after. They say that imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. It's also worship, right? Because when you pattern your life after God and do what he does, you're worshiping him, right? Mm-hmm. And so the devil, his sin was he was full of himself. Pride. So if you imitate that, you're worshiping the devil. And yes, she's fully onto this. And a lot of these women came in with this idea. And the reason why they had to reject the Bible and had to accept evolution, because she said evolution was more preferable and reasonable than the Bible, is because in the Bible there was well-defined sex roles. There was the man and the woman, and God had everything laid out on what men and women did. And so in order to have to as they say, liberate themselves from that, they had to do away with the Bible. There was just no ifs, ands, or buts. Right? And they took all of these different things and made all of these situations, but a lot of the things they actually made worse. And we're going to look at these things later on, but you're looking at someone who openly praised Eve for sinning and had a superiority complex. When you listen to this woman, you can tell that she believes that she's better than men. She may not say it. She's like, oh, I just want equality. But she needs to teach the men what they need to be men in order for them to do things right. Because the women have evolved in their minds to be better and have to fix the mistakes of the men. Except they need the men to do it because they can't do it themselves. And they say that the men are blocking them. Well, if they had the genetics and they had that they were designed for this, they would be in that position, right? It's not that men aren't holding them back. Is that women cannot compete directly with men at male-oriented tasks and beat men. They can't. And we see this happening over and over again. I don't know why we're lying to ourselves. But then the women want the protection of men that they would get from their husbands, except they just want any man to do it. It's not the way life works. You can do whatever you want, but there's also consequences, both good and bad, with every choice that you make, right? So you can live the life that you want, but don't expect that you're going to get the things that you would only get in a marriage. Can't have them both ways.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that men should be rude or wrong, but the men that are going to lay down for you consistently, that's your husband. That's your family.
Yeah.
And with the amount of weak men that are out there today, for women to be presuming that these men are going to come up and stand up, they're not. They're not. You hear it consistently over and over and over again. And that's just really it. I don't like the situation. And the guys that do stand up for women, they get
accused of being traffickers.
Yes, and they get people come after them. Because the men that are going to come up and do things to help women, they're not going to make you feel good all the time. They're
not at all.
They're going to sometimes have to tell you like it is.
Yeah.
And they're going to have to deal with it because it's what's necessary to help you. And anybody knows that when there's a crisis or there's something that needs to be dealt with, sometimes you can't deal with feelings, you have to save them. And that's just the way it is. And so forth. So we have to do a lot of reevaluating. I really feel sorry for this whole situation. And I feel sorry for the innocent people who had to suffer for these clowns that just did nothing but wrong and sought to disadvantage people and knew. You know, the one funny thing is that this person, one of the person that had been chasing it down, were looking over this stuff for months and agreed with all the stuff with the engineering and the ocean and everything else like that.
Did they write affidavits?
Yes.
Signed affidavits agreeing with everything we said.
Yes, which demonstrates collusion to a large degree. You can't pull this off without colluding with one another. It's just not possible. and I look at all the things that has happened, where everything just happens to go wrong 100% of the time and go in favor of everywhere else, and everywhere that I go and I present that evidence that it's nonsense, that I can go ahead and I'm a mastermind criminal that can't make any money, but I can still con people to do all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
But when I go to talk to, you know what, this is just like what happened in Child and Family Services. The social worker was acting like I could con all the psychologists and psychiatrists with PhDs and everybody else like that, but he was the only person that could catch me and point it out, him and his supervisor. Everybody else I was able to fool except for those two.
Yeah.
I was like, get out of here. Right? And these guys lied through their teeth. And this is the same pattern that I see happening over and over again. You know what? I deal with a whole lot of parents that are losing their kids in the same kind of way.
And then me apparently pretending to be homeless so that I can make money.
That's a good way to get killed.
Like, I'm going to put myself at that much risk, take all the battle wounds that I did, all the hospital visits, all the things that I experienced for $0 that I don't have.
Anybody
like, if I wanted to be like a scammer comm artist, I would just be like an OnlyFans chick. I would be a stripper. There's way less risk being a stripper. You make way more money.
I'm sorry, that's a lie that a woman made.
Literally.
A man cannot go to another man and say that with a straight face. He can't.
Like,
and if they are, then they don't. You might as well cut off your testicles because you're both not men. Because no man in his right mind would be able to actually swallow that. And anybody who did as a man, you were not a man.
I actually saw a video of this homeless girl saying that people always go around trying to get homeless people to come stay with them. And she said, don't do it because they will always try to rape you. And this one guy responded to the video and he was like, yeah, honestly, anyone who tries to take a homeless person into their house is probably disgusting, because he's like, who would do that? And I thought about it after and I was like, yeah, that's real. Most of the people that try to take, like, imagine being so down bad, you can't get laid. You have to bring a homeless person in your house to try and rape them. I never in my life, bro, we've had people stay with us. I wouldn't touch them with a 10-foot pole, bro. If I ever let a homeless person stay in my house, if I, of my own decision, went and did that, I would never touch them with a 10-foot pole. I would never cross my mind. But all these people, as soon as I get to their house, all of a sudden they discover that they're attracted to me and they like me and they want to sleep with me and all sorts of things. And they're telling me about their genitals and all their sex life and all this crap. But they didn't know this when I was on the street. They only know as soon as I step through the front door. People who most of the time bring people into their house are probably rapists, taking advantage of homeless people. But imagine how down bad you have to be. How little options do you have to get laid that you have to go collect homeless people? Bro, I'm not even going to go there because I'm not even like that, but you get the point.
Anyway, yeah, we got to take a short commercial break and we'll be back on the other side.
Hello, everyone. I'm excited to announce the next generation of energy drinks, Rev 7. It has no sugar and no caffeine. Instead, Rev 7 uses Go BHB. Go BHB is one of the body's primary ketones, and it provides the most efficient and clean fuel that your body needs. It also helps you stay energized all day with no crashes. Not only that, it produces 3 times more brain energy than sugar, which helps boost your memory, focus, and mental sharpness. It also helps reduce stress and helps balance your mood. Rev 7 does all that while being the best tasting energy drink ever. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 20% today. I'm so sure you're going to love Rev 7. For a limited time, you get our introductory 3-pack absolutely free. I drink Rev 7 every day and I absolutely love it, and so will you.
Yeah, so if you need any MyPillow product, go to mypillow.com /Karis, or call 800-845-2942. Use the promo code Karis. Support a good cause. You can use the donor box, the Give, Send, Go, and so forth. So if you use the links in the description and so on. And yeah, like I said, I don't say there's a lot of people that are sort of confederated that come in and deal with it and then come into play like they are concerned and everything else like that. But nobody wants to read the information. The people that read the documents, they don't act this way.
Most of the people that come in concern are only concerned as far as their ability to exploit me. Once the opportunity to exploit me is off the table, they don't care anymore. And all of a sudden, they're in connection to everybody else who previously came after me. How convenient. How convenient. Most of the people that come around to check, it's like everybody, bro, I don't know. Having this level of riz as a homeless person for 5 years is crazy.
But they just keep making mistakes. And they keep making mistakes. And anybody who is objective will see it. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people who don't. And the reason why they're in this situation, because this isn't just happening to me and my daughter. Yes, me and my daughter might be one of the most offensive cases, but it's still happening to a lot of other people.
Oh, for sure.
And this tactic has been used time and time again. Right? This is how you kill people. And people are sitting down and watching people getting destroyed and getting murdered in front of their faces. And they don't care. This is what, when I see things like this, that I would never think that people would sit down and allow these kinds of things to happen to anybody, but it's happening to a ton of people over and over again. God needs to burn this world with fire. There's no other way. Because I'll tell you right now, with a lot of the people that are doing this nonsense, if heaven was filled with you guys, I would tell God to send me to hell.
Honest to God.
Because there is no way that I would live through eternity with people like this. There is absolutely no way. I would just be like, kill me. God, kill me, because I ain't going to live with them. Because that would be hell.
This is actually why a lot of people are out in the world partying, drinking, smoking, all the stuff, doing drugs or whatever, because they're like, I'm doing all this and I'm still not as disgusting of a person as the people who step into that church every single weekend. Like, and it's the truth. There's some really disgusting people out here that's claiming to do all this stuff, but they're literal rapists, though. It's crazy.
And they give everybody else who's a Christian who's doing God's work a bad name.
100.
Because I know some Christians that are good, solid people.
Obviously, yeah.
But there's a lot of these guys that are having these loud microphones, and they are not Christians. Their action to actually say that they're worshiping the devil.
Yeah.
Because God did not have. I don't care how bad you think somebody is. That's still God's child.
But
What?
But honestly, with how disgusting the world is, I understand why the elites think everyone's useless eaters and wants to get rid of most of the population. Like, I don't agree with that because I'm a Christian, but I can see why the people at the top who are evil have that mentality, because the way that most of the world functions, a lot of people are genuinely like evil or just stupid enough that they'll just perpetuate evil by proxy. And it's just like, it's crazy to watch.
It's like, again, like Andrew Bridgen.
Yeah.
Politician. Guys that he is working with are pedophiles, and he's like, we can't have child rapists running this country.
Yeah.
What do? They abandon him and go after him. His own party members abandoned him and went after him.
Yeah.
Right? Did all this for his community, brought a lot of jobs, and one of the wealthiest communities in the UK, and prosperous. And then he lost.
Yeah.
Badly. When he got more and more people every time because people were happy with what he's doing. But he goes against the pedophiles and they basically run him down to nothing. right? Like, I mean, this is where you have to start looking at this. I look at the people that are going after the pedophiles, and these things keep happening. So when I sit down and I think and I see the types of people that they're going after, because they did this to General Flynn, and I look at these kinds of people, you go after pedophiles, and guess what happens? Right? Like this. So when I start seeing people getting swarmed like this, my first thought now is they're going after pedophiles. Right? Because I'm watching this happen to all kinds of people all over the globe. And they'll tolerate a lot of things, but you start mentioning pedophiles and they start look at Dr. Marcus. Start going after him. Right? Everybody who did that. That's the same fate.
While they covered up for that guy who was convicted pedophile, and then they just gave him a higher position with more access to children and more pay in another province in BC.
Yeah, you can leave, get charged in Alberta, and go to BC, and Bonnie Henry will hire you. Right? That's just the way it is. But if you work and try to cure cancer and run things better, you'll lose your license. Or you try to like save your people from COVID, or getting what the government's doing and try to actually do your job, you get fired. You try to save children, you lose your job. So this is a reward pedophiles and rapist system.
Yeah.
Like
I mean, it's always been this way. Like they've always never cared about doing the right thing. Even when I was a kid in permanent ward of the Crown, they made my dad have supervised visitation. My mom was a crackhead, a prostitute, and dating a man who went to jail for killing one of his twin daughters. They gave me always unsupervised visits with my mother and the guy.
Yeah, they let the guy that killed his kid. They're like, oh, we can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
I'm like, he murdered his child.
Yeah.
And went to prison.
To jail, murdering one of his twin daughters. My mom was dating him while she was a prostitute and a crackhead. The courts knew about this. She never showed up to any of the hearings. She never did anything.
It's all right. I punched his lights out anyway.
Yeah. But
Sorry.
I'm saying, like, they
I get it.
Don't
but I'm like,
the court.
Yeah. I'm like, you come near my kid, I'll put you in the dirt. I don't even care. You killed your kid. You ain't coming near my kid. Sorry. And that was it. Don't care. That's,
yeah.
You don't do that. You think I want some child killer around my kid?
Yeah.
But then, oh, well, who cares? Right? Like.
But the system, they do this stuff. And what's crazy is they'll document this stuff. They document this stuff. They write it on paper. And they're like, whatever. It's the same thing now. The system, they know exactly what they're doing. They don't care about people who actually want to do the right thing. They're setting things up so that they can actually cause harm and further problems to people and children. If you want to do the right thing, you're cooked.
But these are people that they look at, the upstanding people that come in and come after me. Like, I mean, somebody who couldn't look after any of their kids. None. Right? And that's really it.
And it's funny. People actually, I'll say this because a lot of people ask me about my mother, where she is. I don't know where the hell she is, but a lot of people have come in contact with her somehow. And she's been saying whatever the hell she wants to these people. I have no freaking clue. But the woman still does drugs, still a prostitute, has been for as long as I've known her at least. She's raised none of her children. She lost my brother because she left him unattended for a week because she was doing a drug binge and passed out. He almost died. His dad had to come get him. My sister was adopted out. She's raised none of her children. But people are going around listening whatever the hell she's saying behind the scenes, and people are coming to me. Oh, where's your mom? What does your mom do? Do you think I'm retarded? Do you really think I don't understand what you're doing when you come to me like this? Be so for real, man. And they'll take the words. of a woman who literally is a criminal, but not the words of people who are actually doing the work to do something and have the credentials to back up what they're saying. I don't have any criminal record in any country in the world. I'm just a regular person.
Yeah, let's listen to this next clip. And a lot of this is like this feminist behavior, and I'm just gonna say it like it is.
I used to be heavy into feminism, especially teens, early 20s, until I actually started. What? Right? And I realized that, for one, feminism was not created for Black women. Let me tell you the reason why. Because Black women have always worked. We've always contributed to the household. We've always held some type of job, some type of position. It was created for white women so that they could feel equal to their white partners. We didn't have that problem. Okay, we were brought in as allies later to speak on behalf of the feminist movement. Now, have they pushed certain things that maybe we felt like we needed to do, like voting, things of that nature? Sure. Great. But when you think about the bigger picture, right? When you think about everything that women deal with on a day-to-day basis, and I'm specifically talking about Black women because everyone on here is a Black woman or a Black man, right? When you think about what we deal with, Black women deal with the most stress. We die young from having to handle a lot of things on our own. We have the most problem with our children. All of those, it's a direct correlation to feminism and what they have pushed on our community as what we see as us being independent. The reason why we're dying younger and we're so tired and we have no support and we get to a point where it's like you're so angry and upset all the time is because we're putting everything on our shoulders, saying I want to be independent and this boss woman, but that's not your nature. You don't have to be. You can be. And that's my thing. I'm not saying that women that want that shouldn't go after that. You definitely should. But what I am saying is if you decide that you also want a family, then you're going to have to make those sacrifices. And I honestly am getting tired of women complaining about the sacrifice that you signed up for. Because nobody made you have a child, nobody made you get married, nobody made you decide to be a partner. That's what you decided to do. And I know earlier you stated about the Bible, right? And the women in the Bible that were stepping out and doing things, they definitely did. But also in the Bible, it states that you need to learn to love to be a server. You have to be okay with serving others, with not always putting yourself first. And I think that is the biggest issue we have in our Western civilization when it comes to women. Chariot. Especially today. Like we're forever focused on self, what I want, what makes me happy. Most women, I think it's about 70% of women file for divorce. Right? And there are certain women that deal with abuse, that deal with habitual liars and cheaters, narcissism, all of that good stuff. But a lot of those women, a big chunk, leave their families, leave their husbands, put their children in worse situations because they were unhappy. They want something new and exciting.
Honestly, she's so real for that. And honestly, I'll be honest. I don't want to be an independent woman, but the way that society is set up, there's a lot of things about me that are independent, even though I am very traditional because of my West Indian like upbringing and also Christian upbringing. But like I used to go on dates and pay. Like I was not letting anyone pay for anything for me. Like I would either pay my half or pay the whole thing because I was just like I don't want any of the problem of you. Like, I just didn't want anything to do with taking anything from men or dealing anything. Like, I just figured I could do everything by myself, had a job, I could buy whatever I want, I could buy nice clothes if I want, and then if a guy told me, okay, I didn't want a guy to tell me no. Because if he told me no, I would be like, you know what, whatever, I have a dad. I wouldn't even give them the opportunity to tell me no. If there was something, I'd be like, I don't need you. I have a dad. Like I was disrespectful. I will not even lie to you because I just didn't want to deal with what, society says that you're going to deal with if you have to put yourself in the way of dealing with men. But there are a lot of, to be fair, there are a lot of weak men. So a lot of women go around and do more independent things, because the guys, they will just like, they'll want to throw something in your face, or they'll whine and complain about doing something for you. And I'm not that kind of person. Like, if I'm going to do something for you, I'm just going to do something for you, and I'll never mention it. I just don't care. Like, I'm a very generous person, but a lot of people today, they're just, she's right, but I'm just saying, like, there's also a reason, if you understand what I'm saying. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like, at the end of the day, this is again putting women into a bad situation. A lot of women, because this is what they know, they don't realize a lot of the things that they have been, where they've been put into. Like this situation where they talk about how the rape culture and everything else like this, people, we really need to start having some seriously honest conversations on how that came to be. And we're going to examine things as we go through this week and start talking about these things. And we're going to go from cause to effect, right? And this is what we need to do. And this is what men are supposed to do. But we don't see men doing this because men have been indoctrinated to be emotional things, and they make the women feel good because they're mirroring that. But then that guy punches you in the face, or he lies to you, or he cheats like crazy, or he does all these things because he's got no self-control, right? And so this is where people have to start thinking, you want a man that's going to be calm and stable, because if he's not, he's going to be chaotic, and then he's going to turn on you. And then you can't handle him when you got two black eyes. And don't act like it's just only black men that do that, because there's a lot of men that are beating their wives.
Yeah, honestly, my mom, she only dates white guys, really. My brother and sister, they're half white. Almost all of her the men that she is with was beating her. And she was always like, oh, black men are always beating women, blah, blah. I'm like, didn't you say that literally all of your boyfriends beat you? And she's like, oh, well, yeah, I guess. I'm like, and they're white, right? So it's not a skin color problem. It's a character problem. It's just a person, who it is. But
yeah. And Christians, this is really where a lot of people don't like hearing this, don't like what's going on, because of how some of the Christians that are bad make everybody else look bad. And y'all really need to stop or just get out. Well, eventually God will just kick you out anyway. Right? He's going to deal with you. And when God deal with you, sucks to be you, right? Because at the end of the day, it's about doing what's right. I don't have to like everything, but I don't even have to like somebody. But I certainly am not going to let somebody come in and harm your kid. Because that kid, you might be a D-bag, but your kid didn't do anything. Right? Sure, they might grow up and be older and turn out like you, but still, you got to give them a chance, and you can't do that because God don't like that, and it's wrong. Because if you're going to allow kids to get harmed, and this is what happens with a lot of these people that are racist, they will justify, because they hate that race, they'll justify harm to come to kids, and if you let it start with one, it will always go to someone else. You can't control these things. This is just a slippery slope that people don't want to go down. But a lot of people feel good, and then they get the clickbait and all that kind of stuff, and they feel high and mighty and all that stuff, but it's really actually doing more damage to you, right? Not helping you, and so forth. So, I mean, at the end of the day, we need to go and do what's right, man. Like, I mean, I don't want what happened to me to happen to another human being. And I watch people who are having these problems, and they're getting gaslit, and they're getting targeted, and they have a bunch of people that are coming and saying all of these kinds of things. But the one thing I tell you this is that men that will stand up and do what's necessary to protect people, they don't want them around, because there's a bunch of predatory men that are going to have a field day. And they're doing their best to get rid of the men that will not take this type of stuff. And you watch closely, and you will see it happening all over the place. But at the end of the day, there is a God. And no matter what it does, the issue isn't not about having money or anything. It's a fidelity to God. They can't change my mind, no matter what they do. And that's the whole point. Because you serve God, you win. right? Because what do they have to do? They have to commit a whole lot of crime. You saw what the RCMP were doing. That's a deliberate effort, and there were communication between all the detachments to suppress what? The truth, so that a lot of people can die and protect people like Fauci and Peter Daszak. Because if this stuff came up, they would have never been able to lie like that in the COVID select hearings. Fauci would have been, Daszak and those, they'd be done. Well, what about this? Oh, you think that it was right? Well, you don't have the authority to say so. And this person who's reviewed that says, no, you're wrong. And they got the documents, and that was the stuff that was handed over to Senator Rand Paul's office. Anyway, we're running up on time here. So I'm going to close here, and I'll give you your final thoughts. Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you this day. We thank you for your love, grace, and mercy. We thank you for the hope that you have given us this day. Open our hearts and our minds to your will. And, oh, Father, this day I ask of you, Lord, to bring the men and the women to come together, that we could rebuild our churches, our communities, our families, and our nation, and that we can have some protection from the children, from this wickedness and this evil, that it can be stopped. And bless all those who are standing up and doing what is right. It's my prayer. In Jesus' name, amen.
And thanks, God, for the prayer as always. Thanks, guys, for tuning in to our late show tonight. Keep the faith strong, my friends. Keep your hope up. I myself try to not allow myself to run cold with all of the evil that we witness in life, but keep your eyes on Jesus, and things will be okay. Anyways, we'll catch you in the next one. We'll be having a good series this week, and have a good night, guys. And to my dearest Karis, until we meet again, my friends, we won't.